Welcome to our Bucket Bytes segment here on the Coaching Bucket channel. This is a segment that is beyond the views from the Bucket podcast, but I encourage you to subscribe and like and join our views from the Bucket podcast. Let's get started. Bucket Bytes today are on tryouts.
Views from the Bucket.
All right, welcome to the Bucket Bytes controversial tryouts video. Yeah, that's right. We have to talk right now. It's fall. It's fall. And a lot of you, especially on the East Coast, are doing your tryouts for 2025 season, which is great. And good luck with those. But some of you are newer to coaching, especially at the younger levels. We want to make sure we talk about what are the things you're looking for, because it's not just skill. It's not just the ability to play baseball, especially at a lower level, where they all are coming in without the ability to play baseball in a lot of cases. It is what you can look for in coachability, what you can look for in even the parents sometimes. Yeah, we do know there are some of the coaches right now rolling their eyes, right? There are parent cuts, but also, game IQ, situational awareness, things like that. So let's talk about it. Okay, so if you are doing your tryouts this fall, what I want to sort of emphasize here is around you're still looking for the baseball skill, you're still looking for the physical skills, you're still looking to find yourself some good infielders, some good outfielders, looking at things like throwing mechanics, looking at things like arm strength and evaluating those things. But it's important to know what you're looking for in those things. What makes a good infielder, what makes a good outfielder, and what makes good throwing and arm strength. So that is something I think is the most important thing to look at in your tryouts. And so, from a throwing perspective, from an arm strength perspective, the real key here is to assess the player's throwing arm from an arm strength, an accuracy, velocity perspective, even at the younger levels. Even though some younger levels, obviously, they're not going to throw hard, we know that. But just taking a look at can they throw the ball from third to first? Can they throw it from short to first? Can they throw it from second to first? And if somebody can't throw from second to first, then there's likely no spot on the team for them, right? Because you're not going to, especially at the younger levels, you're not going to just specialize. And if you are a coach that specializes at an 8U, 9U, 10U level and puts them in positions that are going to be their permanent position for the entire season, you're making a huge mistake from the development side of baseball. You need to really make sure at those younger ages, as frustrating as it can be, and yeah, you might lose some games, but you got to get them playing at all of the different levels. So when you're assessing your tryout, or all of the different positions, I should say, so when you're assessing your tryouts, it's really, really important to make sure they can play those positions. And so you need to develop some drills and some infield work and some outfield work that allows you to get every player through every position, especially at those younger ages. It's really, really important. Mechanics can be taught. So you can look at the mechanics. If they're awful, then obviously. But if they are relatively passable and they're still able to throw from third and they're still able to throw from center field and they can still throw down to second from a catcher's position, things like that, it just needs some mechanical adjustments. Fine. That's something you probably can sort of change during practices. One of the things you do have to be careful of, though, coaches, is making sure that you don't have a lot of time suckers on your final roster. What I mean by that is these are people who are going to take extra coaching time. These are people that are going to take time away from some of your top players as well. So we want to make sure we avoid having too many of those players where they're going to suck all the coaching time into them because they're just not ready to play at this level. Then they pull you away from your top players who also need attention, right? So again, that's one big thing to really be assessing here in tryouts. In terms of infielders, let's go look at that. Focus, obviously, is the biggest thing. Infielder can even be a dangerous position at some of the younger ages if they're not focused. If they're, looking at blimps and counting rainbows and watching the birds or kicking at the sand, it's going to be a problem, especially at a rep level. because there's a good chance that balls are getting hit hard and hard in their direction. So we want to make sure that their focus level is there. You got to make sure that the footwork is there. Now, obviously, at an 8U, 9U level, you're not looking as much at footwork, but at the later ages, you absolutely are. Footwork is such an important piece to making a good throw to first base, making a good throw to home, making whatever it is. Footwork is huge for fielding and throwing. Glove work, obviously, we want to make sure the glove is close to the ground. We want to make sure that they are actually seeing the ball into their glove, that it's out in front. These types of things, these are the simple things, but these are simple things that a player in a tryout should be able to do, right? You shouldn't have to teach in tryouts unless it's, say, an 8U or a 9U. So, and even then, you shouldn't be teaching that much. You should see how far they can go for you. And then the ability to make quick decisions is another big thing in the infield. Quick decisions from the cerebral level. So if you think about the fact that, a third baseman, for example, should be able to think through whether they need to turn a double play here, whether there's a single runner running from second to running from second to third, yes, whether they need to touch their base and throw to first, things like that. All of these things should be something that they can recognize, especially from a 10U and up level, not necessarily at 8U and 9U. Outfielders, assessing tracking ability, assessing catching mechanics. Like, are they backpedaling? Or are they using a proper drop step? Are they able to read a fly ball? Are they able to get their glove up and get that second hand in there to secure the ball? Are they able to get a throw off quickly? How do they approach ground balls? Can they round a ground ball coming to the outfield? These are all things that maybe at a higher level you're looking for. At the lower level, it's really just the ability to catch the ball and the ability to throw from that position. The rest of it you can teach, things like cutoffs and things like that. But you can try running cutoffs and things in tryouts as well. Okay, so hitting mechanics and power. Let's do this. We don't want these videos to be too long, so let's talk about hitting mechanics and power. Really, it's looking for solid hitting mechanics. You're not looking for Bryce Harper. You're not looking for Mike Trout. You're not looking for Shohei Ohtani out there. You are looking for general basic mechanics. That is what you're looking for. You are looking for their balance. So how are they balanced as a hitter? What does the swing path look like? That's one of the things that I like to try to look for. Things like bat speed is another thing. Things like whether they can hit for contact or power. Can they make adjustments? So can they do it, especially at the higher levels? Can they make a 2-strike adjustment and be ready to protect and be ready to, choke up on the bat and just hit the ball into a hole they can find? Can they do any of that? Can they position? Can they bunt? Those types of things. Base running, basic. Basic cerebral knowledge of the base running is key here. It is focusing on things like their running speed. Obviously, that's a big one. But can they think through what the situation is? Do they know where to go? Do they know how to take a lead? Do they know how to take a secondary lead? Do they know how to recognize where the ball is going when it's hit so that they can either tag up if it's a fly ball or keep moving, read the ball, whether it's going to land or not? Can you look at those things in a tryout? Those are really, really important. When it comes to reaction time and aggressiveness, do they take that aggressive approach on the base paths, or are they somebody that's more reserved, relies on the coach to tell them what to do and where to go? If that's the case, you might want to have somebody that's a little more cerebral out there that can take and read a play and then be able to make that decision without the coach having to yell an instruction. And that's really at any level. Pitching, obviously 8U, 9U, very, very basic. Can they throw the ball? Can they accurately get it to the catcher? Can they get it over the plate? Those types of things. But otherwise, on the higher levels, you're looking for more mechanics. You're looking for where the velocity is at right now versus age level. Is there somebody that can throw harder than others? Obviously control is an issue. You don't want them hitting every batter or airmailing the backstop every time, and mental toughness. The one thing about pitching that I think we leave out of tryouts a lot, and perhaps too much, is the mental toughness of it all. It is very easy to get frustrated when people are hitting the ball off of you. It's very easy to get lit up after that because your mental state isn't good. You can't focus on the ability to pitch and the ability to throw strikes. Instead, you are concerned more about the fact that you just gave up a home run or a double or a single or whatever. I've seen players get frustrated frustrated with an inning that had no runs scored, but just because they gave up a hit, they're kicking at the dirt. We have to be able to teach that out of them. Baseball's a game of failure, and some of the things that they learn from a frustration standpoint from friends and wiffle ball games and things like that have to kind of be coached out of them. So how much are you going to have to do that? That is something you need to kind of assess with the pitching game. And then obviously, we can teach other things like mechanics and velocity through throwing progressions and things like that too. So is that ability there? Do they listen? Are they coachable? That's a big thing. Like, how coachable are these players you're looking at? Because if they aren't willing to be coached, or worse, if you've got, say, dad or somebody else out there that's overstepping you as a coach, even at tryouts, maybe they're hanging off the fence. This is that kind of parent cut thing. If they're hanging off the fence, yelling instructions at your player, I can tell you right now that's going to happen all season long from that dad or parent or whomever, right? Maybe it's grandpa. I don't know. But the reality of it is, are you willing in your season to put up with that? Right now, you can have those conversations with parents. You can tell parents to kind of stay away, let the coaches do their thing. But the reality of it all is, as soon as the game's over, as soon as practice is over, you're going to get some instruction from dad in the car. Probably going to throw 400 baseballs when they get home. It's going to be a challenge and an uphill battle with that player potentially. So they may have some initial skill. They may look to be successful in a tryout. But again, if dad's hanging off the fence all the time, giving shouting instructions, is that something you really want on your team? You got to think about that. And so when you think about a game IQ perspective, a situational awareness perspective, the first thing is understanding game situations. Can your players understand what's going on in the game? Can they make a plan? One thing I've always asked from 10U and up is to think about your plan. What's going to happen if the ball is hit to me? What am I going to do with it? Where do I go? What is the proper play here? Right? If they can't make that decision or they don't understand it, and again, at the lower levels, you're still teaching the game very basically. So this isn't necessarily for you coaches on that. I mean, if anybody knows that stuff already, that's a great player to have. But again, that's one thing you're going to teach. At the middle levels, higher levels, obviously you want them to know those game situations. We talked a little bit about coachability from a parent standpoint, but is this a player that, whether the parent's yelling at them or not, is going to listen to you? Are they constantly misbehaving at the tryouts? Are they constantly, joking around with the other teammates? Are they not doing the things you've been asking them to do? Are they hot-shotting it out at short? Because, those types of things happen, right? You get these players that think they're the best at everything, and they're not doing the things you've asked to see the basic fundamentals in tryouts. Is that somebody you're going to want to work with? So that's a huge question to try and overcome and try and make sure you understand. Awareness and decision making, obviously those types of things, especially in the infield. Somebody, pitcher, how many times have you seen a pitcher who hit in the gut, shortstop not paying attention, third base at the hot corner not paying attention? Those types of things, make sure you're assessing those. And then ultimately, you're also looking for things that can help them progress. Do they have athleticism? Do they have some speed and agility? Can they move left to right well? Can they move forward back well? Can you measure some speed and do some timed sprints to figure out how fast these players are going to be? What's their endurance like? Are they going to get exhausted by the second or third inning? Make sure you understand that. And that can be done through scrimmages. And I highly recommend that at least 2 or 3 of your tryouts are actual full scrimmage games where you're scoring it and you're having pitchers come in and throw an inning or two, and you're doing some baseball activity that's game-like, not just hitting into nets and hitting ground balls at people and hitting fly balls at the outfield. And those are all great, but a lot of times players can make those catches, they can make those throws, they can make those ground ball plays, they can pitch well in a batting practice scenario, but then when they get to a game, they can't, and the nerves get to them and things like that. So it's really important that you understand that and you run some scrimmages here as well. And that'll allow you to really assess maybe that final category, I think, that's there, which is some mental toughness and attitude. Can they take it? Can they take the fact that, especially after they're not in coach pitch or pitching machine or whatever, that they're not going to hit 800? right? They're not going to hit 800. They're going to have a more realistic baseball experience. Can they take that? Do they have that mental toughness, that resilience? Are they a team player? Are they a leader? Do they communicate? Are they calling fly balls? Are they communicating who's got the bag? Are they talking about how many outs there are when they're playing shortstop or center field? Are they being a commander? Are they being a leader? That's something you've got to look for in those tryouts as well. Can they play multiple positions? As I said, you really need to build a team that can play anywhere. Again, they might have their top position, the one that they're best at, but man, they need to be able to play anywhere because injuries can happen. Somebody might be pitching that's usually your normal shortstop. You've got to be able to have somebody that's able to come in and play that position and play it admirably. So these are all things you need to be looking for in really from a versatility standpoint in your tryouts as well. And then there's obviously, lastly, the intangibles. I mean, the intangibles are huge. Raw skill's great. And raw skill, as we talked about, versatility, mental approach, the ability to just have fundamentals and work well with the baseball. But then the intangibles are the attitude and enthusiasm. I've had tryouts. I had a tryout where 2 years in a row, this kid comes out, and both times, maybe even been three years in a row, and all three times he's asking when the practice is going to be over, when the tryout is going to be over, when can I go play my PlayStation again? Obviously that kid did not make the team in any of those years, but when you have an attitude like that, can you really ever take them on the team? I don't think you can. I really don't. Competitiveness, leadership qualities, as I've said. Is there a leader there? Not everybody has to be a leader. That doesn't have to happen. But can they encourage their teammates? Are they constantly insulting their teammates out of jealousy? Are they constantly saying, oh, yeah, that was a great play, but I mean, I could have made that 10 seconds faster or whatever. I've seen that too. I coached an all-star team last year, and one kid who's very, very good from one of our rival teams within the league, I couldn't believe how often he brought down other players because he was simply jealous. That was simply it. Somebody made a nice play, and instead of congratulating him on the nice play like most of his other teammates, he would in fact insult the play in some way or tell how he could have made that play better. That's not a guy you want on the team. That's not a player you want on the team at all. So those are the types of things you want to think about when you're doing tryouts, and the leadership qualities. The biggest thing is focus on the mental and the physical attributes of baseball. What is it you want as a coach? What is your plan for the season? Think about where you're going with the season, right? How many tournaments are you doing? How often are you going out of town? What kind of championships are you looking at? What kind of level of baseball are you coaching? That's another thing. Are you single A, triple A, double A, elite? What are you doing to pick this team, and what do you expect the season to be like? You need to have all of that in your tryout plan. And for the love of God, coaches, have a tryout plan. Don't just show up and hit ground balls. Like, please do not show up and just hit ground balls and have a batting practice and hit fly balls to outfielders. The best tryout you're going to get is with a full plan. And usually the plan for me has always been the first tryout, we're going to do skills. We're going to do those drills. But we got to have planned drills, agility drills, running drills, fielding drills, throwing progressions, stretching out even. What can they do in from those levels? Fly balls, hitting, all of that stuff. Once we get that stuff, we see that raw skill. You really only need to see that once, maybe twice if you have a large group. Like if you're sitting there with 60 players, different story, might take 2 or 3 tryouts to see that before you get into the scrimmages. But if you have a smaller group, 1 tryout's fine. See the basics, then get into 2 or 3 games and see if they can play in a game. And it's a huge way to know what you're dealing with and be able to pick the players. So that is the very first Bucket Bytes. It's what to look for in tryouts. Good luck, coaches. I know fall tryouts can be stressful, especially when it's time to make the cuts, but I know you can do it. You're all great coaches, and you're trying to make these players better, and you're trying to grow these players and make them better in life too. That's why you're watching this, and I appreciate your views. Don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe, and don't forget to check out the Views from the Bucket podcast itself as well. This week coming up, as we said, founder of Ball Girls Baseball, Allie Lacey, is coming on. But we have lots of other great episodes from people from the major leagues to people who have made the major leagues. to USA Baseball. There's already great episodes to check out. So make sure you stay on this channel and check those out. And thanks for watching Bucket Bites.